The sky above the planet burned orange and red. Ships filled the darkness of space like angry insects. They were everywhere. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. They belonged to the collective, and they had come to destroy everything. Queen stood at the tall window of her palace. Her silver skin reflected the flames that rose from the city below. Her 4 eyes watched as another building collapsed into dust and fire. She had ruled her people for 60 cycles. She had seen wars before, but she had never seen anything like this. "My queen," said General behind her. His voice was tired. His arm was wrapped in white cloth stained with purple blood. "The eastern wall has fallen. We have lost contact with the Third Army." Did not turn around. She continued to watch the destruction. Her heart felt heavy like a stone in her chest. "How many ships do we have left?" she asked. 12, my queen, and they are damaged." 12 ships against thousands. It was not a battle, it was an execution. The collective had attacked without warning 3 days ago. They came from the dark regions of the galaxy where no light reached. They were creatures of shadow and metal, their bodies more machine than flesh. They did not negotiate. They did not show mercy. They only consumed. For 3 days had watched her world burn. For 3 days she had sent messages to every empire she knew. The Federation, the Stellar Council, the Trade Alliance of the Outer Rim. She begged them for help. She promised them anything they wanted: land, resources, her loyalty forever. No one answered. The Federation said they were too far away. The Stellar Council said they needed to discuss the matter in their assembly. The Trade Alliance did not respond at all. Everyone had an excuse. Everyone was afraid. The collective was too powerful. No one wanted to fight them. No one wanted to die for a planet that was not their own. Understood their fear. She felt it too, but understanding did not make the pain any less. "There is one more option," said quietly. Finally turned to look at him. The old general had served her family for his entire life. His scales were gray now, marked with scars from 100 battles. She trusted him more than anyone. "What option?" she asked. Hesitated. He looked uncomfortable, as if the words themselves were difficult to speak. "The humans," he said. His 4 eyes blinked slowly. The humans. She had heard of them, of course. Everyone in the galaxy had heard of them. They were a young species from a small blue planet called Earth. They had only discovered space travel 200 cycles ago. In the great scale of the universe, they were children. But the stories about them were strange, disturbing even. They said humans did not fear death the way other species did. They said humans would fight battles they could not win, simply because they believed it was right. They said humans formed bonds with other creatures so strong that they would sacrifice themselves for strangers. Most species in the galaxy thought these stories were myths, exaggerations. No creature could be that strange. "The humans are weak," said. "They have a small fleet, a small army. What could they possibly do against the—" "I do not know," admitted, "but they are the only ones who might answer. I have heard stories. They helped the Myra colony when the plague struck. They sent food and medicine to the system during the famine. They ask for nothing in return. They simply help." Shook her head. It made no sense to her. In the galaxy she knew everyone wanted something. Power, territory, resources. No one helped for free. "Why would they help us?" she asked. "We have never spoken to them. We have nothing to offer them." "I do not know," said again, "but we have no other choice." Another explosion shook the palace. Dust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere in the distance heard her people screaming. She closed her 4 eyes and felt the weight of her crown upon her head. She was a queen. She was supposed to protect her people. She was supposed to have answers, but she had nothing left. No army, no allies, no hope. "Send the message," she said quietly. Bowed his head and left the room. Turned back to the window. The sky was completely orange now. She could not see the stars anymore. She wondered if this would be the last night of her civilization. She wondered if anyone would remember them after they were gone. The communication officer worked quickly. He was young, barely past his first cycle of adulthood. His hands shook as he typed the coordinates for Earth into the system. He had never sent a message so far before. He did not even know if it would reach its destination. The message was simple, had written it herself. "This is Queen of the Empire. Our world is under attack. Our people are dying. We have asked for help from every corner of the galaxy and no one has answered. We are desperate. We are surrounded. If anyone can hear this message, we beg you, please help us. We do not have much time." The message flew through space at the speed of light. It passed dead moons and empty asteroids. It crossed the vast darkness between stars. It traveled for hours, then days, getting weaker with every passing moment. On the bridge of a ship called the Horizon, a woman named sat at the communication station. She was drinking coffee and reading a book when her screen began to flash. She put down her cup and leaned forward. "Captain," she said slowly, "you need to hear this." Captain was a tall man with tired eyes and gray hair at his temples. He had been a soldier for 20 years. He had seen many things in his life. But when he heard the message from Queen, something changed in his face. "How far away is that planet?" he asked. 3 days at maximum speed," said, "but sir, the collective. They have thousands of ships, we have one." Was quiet for a long moment. He looked at the stars through the front window of his ship. Somewhere out there, people were dying. Somewhere out there, a queen was begging for help that would never come. "Set a course," he said. Stared at him, "Sir." "Set a course for maximum speed." "But sir, we cannot possibly." "I heard you," said. His voice was calm but firm. "I know the odds, set the course anyway." Did not argue. She had served under for 5 years. She knew that look in his eyes. It was the look he got when he had made a decision that nothing could change. She turned back to her station and began typing. On the planet, Queen did not know that help was coming. She stood at her window and watched her world burn, believing that she was alone. But she was not alone, not anymore. 5 days had passed since Queen sent her message into the darkness of space. 5 days of fire and death and silence. The palace was no longer safe. The eastern tower had collapsed 2 days ago. The great hall where ancestors had ruled for 1,000 cycles was now filled with rubble and ash. She had moved her remaining people into the underground shelters beneath the palace. It was cold down there, dark, but it was the only place the bombs could not reach. Sat on a simple stone chair. There was no throne down here, no crown. She had lost those things in the destruction above. Now she was just another frightened creature hiding in the darkness. Around her, her people huddled together. Children cried softly. Mothers tried to comfort them with whispered words. Old ones stared at nothing, their eyes empty and lost. The air smelled of smoke and fear. "My queen," said. He walked slowly toward her. His wound had gotten worse. Purple blood seeped through his bandages. "I have news." Looked up at him. She was afraid to hope. Hope had become a dangerous thing. "The Stellar Council has responded," said. For a moment felt something warm in her chest. Maybe someone had listened. Maybe help was coming. "They send their condolences," continued. His voice was bitter. "They say they will remember the people with honor after we are gone." The warmth in his chest turned to ice. Condolences, honor. These were words for the dead. The Stellar Council had already decided that her people would not survive. They were not sending help. They were sending a funeral speech. "And the others?" asked. "The Federation says they cannot spare any ships. The Trade Alliance is still silent." Closed her 4 eyes. She had expected this. She had known from the beginning that no one would come. But hearing it spoken out loud made it real in a way that hurt more than she had imagined. "What about the humans?" she asked quietly. Hesitated. "There has been no response from Earth." Of course, the humans were too far away, too small, too weak. Why would they risk their lives for strangers they had never met? It was foolish to think they would be different from everyone else. Stood up from her stone chair. Her legs were tired. Her whole body was tired. But she was still a queen, even if she no longer had a crown. "How long do we have?" she asked. "They are breaking through the final shield," said. "Maybe one day, maybe two, after that." He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Walked through the shelter. Her people looked at her as she passed. Some reached out to touch her robe. Others simply watched with frightened eyes. She tried to smile at them. She tried to look brave, but she was not sure if she succeeded. She found a small room at the back of the shelter. It had been a storage space once. Now it held only a single communication device, old and dusty. She sat down in front of it and turned it on. The screen flickered with static. The connection was weak, but she could still send one more message. She did not know why she was doing this. The humans had not responded. They probably never would, but she needed to speak. She needed someone to hear her voice, even if no one was listening. "This is Queen," she said into the device. Her voice was tired and rough. "I do not know if anyone is receiving this. I do not know if anyone cares, but I wanted to say, thank you. Not to any government, not to any empire. Thank you to anyone who listened. Thank you to anyone who thought about helping, even if they could not." She paused. Tears formed in her 4 eyes. She had not cried since she was a child. Queens were not supposed to cry, but she was not sure she was a queen anymore. "My people are going to die," she continued. "I cannot save them. I cannot protect them. I have failed them in every way a queen can fail, but I want the universe to know that we existed. We were here. We lived and loved and dreamed. We were not just another planet. We were not just another species. We were people." She took a deep breath. The tears fell down her silver cheeks. "If anyone finds this message after we are gone, please remember us. That is all I ask. Please remember that we were here." She turned off the device and sat in the darkness for a long time. Far away, on the bridge of the horizon, listened to the message with tears in her own eyes. She had intercepted it by accident while scanning for obstacles in their path. She had not expected to hear the voice of a dying queen. "Captain," she said, her voice was shaking, was standing at the navigation console, studying the map of the system. He looked up when he heard his voice. "Play it for everyone," he said. Hesitated. "Sir, it is difficult to hear." "I know, play it anyway." She pressed a button and Queen's voice filled the bridge. Every person on the ship stopped what they were doing. They listened to the words of a stranger from across the galaxy. They heard her pain, her fear, her acceptance of death. When the message ended, the bridge was silent. Looked at his crew. There were 30 people on this ship. Soldiers, engineers, doctors, pilots. They had families back on Earth. They had lives waiting for them when this mission was over. "You all heard that," he said. "You all know what we are flying into. They have thousands of ships. We have one. If we go too, there is a very good chance we will die." No one spoke. No one moved. "I will not order any of you to come with me," continued. "This is not our war. These are not our people. If anyone wants to leave, I will drop you at the nearest station. No shame, no judgment." He waited. The silence stretched on. Then a young woman named stood up. She was the ship's pilot. She was 23 years old with short black hair and steady hands. "Sir," she said, "where else would we go?" One by one the others stood up too. The engineer, the doctor, the soldier's menu, and all of them rose from their seats and faced their captain. Felt something tighten in his chest. He had served with many crews over the years. He had never been more proud than he was at this moment. "Then we go together," he said, "all of us. We fly into the fire and we do what humans have always done. We help, we fight, we protect those who cannot protect themselves." He turned back to the navigation console and looked at the map. Was still 2 days away. 2 days to prepare. 2 days to plan. 2 days to figure out how one ship could stand against an army. He said, "How fast can this ship really go?" Smiled. It was a dangerous smile. "Faster than the manual says, sir, much faster." "Show me." The engines of the horizon roared to life. The ship jumped forward, leaving a trail of light behind it. It was a small ship, a tiny ship, a ship that should not have mattered at all. But inside that ship were humans. And humans, as the galaxy was about to learn, did not care about what should or should not be possible. In the underground shelter on, Queen slept fitfully. She dreamed of fire and darkness. She dreamed of her people crying out for help that never came. She did not know that help was coming. She did not know that a strange species from a distant planet had heard her voice and decided to answer. She did not know that in 2 days, everything would change. The horizon dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. The sudden stop made everyone on the bridge grab their seats. The ship groaned and shook, its engines hot from the journey. Wiped sweat from her forehead. She had pushed the ship harder than she had ever pushed it before. Parts of the engine would need repairs, but they had made it. They were here. "Report," said Captain. Looked at her screen. Her face went pale. "Sir," she said slowly, "there are a lot of ships out there." Walked to her station and looked at the screen. His jaw tightened. The fleet filled the space around like a cloud of metal insects. There were so many ships that he could not count them all. Big ships, small ships, ships with weapons that glowed red and hungry. They surrounded the planet from every direction, leaving no escape. "How many?" asked. "At least 3,000, said, "maybe more. My sensors cannot see them all." 3,000 ships, and they had one. Commander stood up from his seat. He was the second in command, a man with broad shoulders and a calm face. He walked to the window and looked out at the enemy fleet. "Well," he said, "that is certainly a lot of ships." "Yes," said. "We are going to fight all of them." "Yes." Nodded slowly. Then he smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had accepted something impossible. "I always wanted to do something memorable," he said. Lieutenant approached the captain. She was young, only 25, but she led the tactical team. She was smart and quick, and she never panicked. Had chosen her for this mission because he knew she would stay calm when everything fell apart. "Sir," she said, "I have been studying the formation. There are gaps." Raised an eyebrow. "Gaps?" "Yes, they are confident. They think no one is coming to help. They are not watching for threats from outside. Most of their ships are facing the planet, not the space behind them." Felt something spark in his mind. Hope was dangerous, but ideas were not. "Show me," he said. Pulled up a display of the fleet. She pointed to several locations where the ships were spread thin. "Here, here, and here," she said. "If we come in fast and quiet, we might be able to reach the planet before they notice us." "And then what?" asked. "Even if we reach, we cannot fight 3,000 ships." "We do not need to fight all of them," said. "We just need to cause chaos, break their formation, give the people a chance to escape." Thought about this. It was a desperate plan, a crazy plan, but it was the only plan they had. "What about weapons?" he asked. "They have shields, our guns might not be strong enough." The engineer spoke up. He was a quiet man who spent most of his time in the engine room, but when he talked about machines, he came alive. "I have been working on something," he said. "They use electromagnetic shields, very advanced, but they have a weakness. If we hit them with a pulse at the right frequency, the shields will fail for about 10 seconds. 10 seconds, said. 10 seconds, confirmed. That is enough time to do a lot of damage. Looked around the bridge at his crew. These were good people, brave people. They had followed him across the galaxy to help strangers they had never met. They deserved to know the truth. "I will not lie to you," he said. "This plan might not work. Even if everything goes perfectly, we might still die. They are powerful, they are many. and we are few." He paused. "But somewhere on that planet people are waiting for help. A queen sent a message into the darkness, hoping someone would answer. We are that answer. We are the only answer, and I would rather die trying to save them than live knowing I did nothing." The crew was silent. Then one by one they nodded. No one argued, no one complained, they understood. "All right," said, "let us begin." The next 2 hours were filled with preparation. Worked on the electromagnetic pulse device in the engine room, trained her tactical team in the cargo bay. Doctor prepared the medical station for injuries that would surely come. Ran calculations for their approach, finding the safest path through the enemy fleet. Stood at the window and watched the distant planet of. It was a beautiful world, he could tell. Blue and green and white like Earth, like home. Walked up beside him. "What are you thinking?" asked. "I am thinking about my daughter," said. "She is 12 years old. She wants to be a pilot when she grows up." "Does she know where you are?" "No, she thinks I am on a routine patrol." Was quiet for a moment. "I wonder what she will think when she finds out what I did here." Looked at his captain. "She will be proud." "You think so?" "I know so. You are doing what any father would do. You are protecting children. It does not matter that they are not human children. It does not matter that they live on a different planet. They are still children. They still deserve to live." Nodded slowly. He had not thought of it that way before, but was right. "Thank you," he said. "You are welcome. Now should we go save a planet?" Smiled. "Yes, I think we should." The horizon moved quietly through space. Flew the ship like an artist, avoiding detection, slipping through the gaps in the formation. The crew held their breath. Every second felt like an hour. On the bridge, monitored the enemy communications. They were talking to each other in their harsh, mechanical language. They were discussing the final attack on. They were planning to destroy the planet completely in 1 hour. 1 hour, that was all the time they had. "We are through the outer ring," said, "approaching the planet now." Leaned forward in his chair. Through the window he could see clearly now. The planet was wounded. Smoke rose from 100 different fires. Cities lay in ruins, but it was still alive. There was still something to save. "Open a channel to the surface," he said. "All frequencies." Pressed a button. "Channel open, sir." Took a deep breath, then he spoke. "This is Captain of the Earth vessel Horizon. We received your message, Queen. We are here to help. I know we are only one ship. I know the enemy is strong, but we are human, and humans do not abandon those in need." He paused. "Prepare your people for evacuation. We are going to create an opening. When you see it, run. Do not look back. Do not hesitate, just run." He ended the transmission and looked at his crew. "Battle stations," he said. "Let us show these what humans are made of." In the underground shelter on, Queen heard the message. She could not believe it. She played it again and again, listening to the strange voice speaking in a language she barely understood. Someone had come. After all this time, after all her prayers, someone had actually come. She stood up and faced her people. For the first time in days, there was light in her 4 eyes. "Prepare to move," she said. "Help has arrived." The commander was named Vox 9. He was more machine than flesh, his body rebuilt 100 times over thousands of years. He had destroyed 47 planets in his long life, would be number 48. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the final preparations for the destruction of the planet below. His soldiers were efficient. His fleet was powerful. Everything was going according to plan. Then an alarm began to sound. "What is this?" Vox 9 asked. His voice was cold and metallic. "Commander," said one of his officers, "we have detected a ship. It came through our outer defenses." "One ship?" "Yes, Commander, a small vessel, human design." Vox 9 felt something he had not felt in centuries. Surprise. The humans were weak. Everyone knew this. They had no significant military presence. They were barely worth noticing. "How did it get through?" he demanded. "We do not know, Commander. It appeared suddenly, as if from nowhere." Vox 9 watched his screen as the tiny human ship flew toward his fleet. It was so small, so fragile, he could destroy it with a single shot. "This is not a threat," he said. "It is an insult. Destroy it." 12 warships turned their weapons toward the horizon. Their guns powered up, glowing red with deadly energy. On the bridge of the horizon, watched the enemy ships move. "They have seen us," said. "I know," said. "Is the pulse ready?" "Ready, Captain." "Are your teams in position?" "Ready, Captain." "How close can you get us?" His hands moved across her controls. The ship turned sharply, diving toward the fleet at impossible speed. "Very close, Captain," she said with a grim smile. The ships fired. Beams of red light shot through space toward the horizon, dodged left, then right, then up, moving the ship like a dancer avoiding a sword. The beams passed by harmlessly, missing by meters. Now shouted. Pressed a button. The horizon released a wave of electromagnetic energy that spread out in all directions. It was invisible to the eye, but its effect was immediate. The shields of every ship in range flickered and died. "Fire," commanded. The horizon's guns came alive. They were not powerful weapons by galactic standards, but against ships with no shields they were deadly. The first shot tore through a warship, breaking it in half. The second shot destroyed another. The third and fourth found their targets too. In seconds, 4 ships were burning in space. Vox 9 watched in disbelief. His ships were dying, his shields were gone, and one tiny human vessel was causing all of this. "All ships," he shouted, "destroy that vessel, all ships attack now." The entire fleet began to turn. 3,000 ships focused on one target. It was the largest attack force ever assembled against a single enemy. Knew they could not survive this, but survival was not the goal. He said, "Take your team to the surface, find the survivors, get them out." Nodded. She had been waiting for this order. She ran from the bridge with 10 soldiers behind her. The horizon dropped toward, moving faster than ever before. Behind it, the fleet followed. Weapons fired. Explosions lit up the darkness. The ship shook and groaned as near misses rocked its frame. "Shields at 60%, reported. "Keep going," said. "Shields at 40%. "Keep going." The planet grew larger in the window. They were close now, so close. And her team reached the cargo bay where their landing shuttle waited. Sargent was already inside, checking her weapons. She was a small woman with fierce eyes and quick hands. She had fought in 12 battles before this one. She was not afraid. "Ready?" asked. "Always," said. The shuttle launched from the horizon just as another weapon struck the main ship. The impact sent the shuttle spinning, but grabbed the controls and steadied it. "Hold on," she shouted. The shuttle dove through fire and smoke toward the surface of. Around them, fighters tried to follow. "Man the rear gun," shooting down any enemy that got too close. "2 on our left," called Menu. Turned and fired. Both fighters exploded. "1 more behind," called. Fired again, another explosion. The shuttle broke through the clouds and saw the ruined city below. Smoke rose from collapsed buildings. Fires burned everywhere, but in the center of it all could see the palace, and beneath it, according to the Queen's transmission, were the survivors. "Landing in 30 seconds, she announced. On the horizon, things were getting worse. The shields were gone, the engines were damaged. Smoke filled the corridors, but his crew kept fighting. "Fire everything we have," he ordered. The ship's weapons roared, more vessels fell. But for every ship they destroyed, 10 more took its place. It was like fighting the ocean. Endless, hopeless. Grab's arm. "Captain, we need to retreat. The ship cannot take much more." Shook his head. Not yet. Team is still on the surface. We need to give them more time. Captain, I said not yet. Another explosion rocked the bridge. Sparks flew from a damaged console, cried out as a piece of metal cut her arm. Doctor rushed to help her. Shields are gone, shouted from the engine room. Hull breach on deck 3, we are losing atmosphere. Gripped his chair. His ship was dying, his crew was bleeding, but down on that planet was trying to save lives. He would give her every second he could. On the surface, shuttle landed hard in front of the palace ruins. The team jumped out with their weapons ready. The air was thick with smoke and ash. This way, shouted. They ran through the rubble, following the signal from the Queen's transmission. Soldiers appeared from the shadows, their mechanical bodies glowing with red light, and the others fired without hesitation. The enemy fell. They reached the entrance to the underground shelter. It was blocked by debris. "Menu, clear this," ordered. The two soldiers worked quickly, pulling stones and metal away from the entrance. It took precious minutes, but finally they broke through. Inside, they found hundreds of people huddled together. Silver-skinned aliens with 4 eyes looked up at them in fear and wonder. Stepped forward and raised her hands to show she meant no harm. "We are here to help," she said. "Come with us quickly." An old alien approached her. It was General. His wound had gotten worse. He could barely stand. "Who are you?" he asked. "We are humans," said. "We received your Queen's message. We came as fast as we could." Stared at her, his 4 eyes filled with tears. "You came," he whispered. "You actually came." "Yes," said. "Now we need to move. We do not have much time." Queen pushed through the crowd. She had never seen a human before. She had thought they would look strange and frightening. But the young woman standing before her looked kind. She looked brave. She looked like someone who would risk everything to help a stranger. "Thank you," said. Her voice broke. "Thank you for coming." Took the Queen's hand. "Thank us later. Right now, we need to get your people to safety." The evacuation began. Hundreds of citizens moved through the tunnel toward the shuttle, and the soldiers protected them, fighting off patrols that tried to stop them. Above them in the burning sky, the Horizon continued to fight. One ship against thousands. Impossible odds, certain death. But the humans did not stop. They never stopped. They kept fighting, kept shooting, kept buying time for the people below. Because that was what humans did. They helped. The Horizon was burning. Fire consumed the lower decks. Smoke filled the corridors. The lights flickered and died, leaving only the red glow of emergency systems. Most of the crew was injured. Some were unconscious, but they kept fighting. Captain stood on his damaged bridge, blood running down his face from a cut on his forehead. His uniform was torn. His body ached in 100 different places, but he refused to sit down. He refused to give up. "How much longer?" he asked. Checked her screen with her good arm. The other was wrapped in bandages. "Reports they are loading the last group now. 5 more minutes." 5 more minutes. It felt like an eternity. Outside the window, the fleet closed in. There were so many of them. The sky was nothing but metal and fire and death. The Horizon had destroyed dozens of enemy ships, but it did not matter. There were always more. Commander Vox-9 watched from his flagship. He was angry now, furious. One human ship had caused more damage to his fleet than any enemy in centuries. It was impossible. It was insulting. "Bring me that ship," he ordered. "I want to see these humans before they die." His fleet moved in for the final attack. On the surface, helped the last citizens onto the shuttle. There were too many people for one ship, so they had called down the Horizon's backup transports. 3 shuttles now sat in the ruins of the palace, filled with survivors. Queen was the last to board. She stopped at the door and looked back at her ruined world. The palace where she had been born, the city where she had played as a child, the sky that had once been filled with stars and hope. All of it was gone. Your Majesty said gently, "We need to go." Nodded slowly. She turned away from her home and stepped onto the shuttle. There was nothing left for her here, but there was something waiting for her above. Strangers who had become friends. Aliens who had risked everything to save her people. The shuttles rose into the smoke-filled sky. Sat at the rear gun watching for enemies. Fighters appeared almost immediately trying to shoot them down. She fired back, her aim perfect, her hand steady. 3 fighters fell, then 4, then 5. "We have company," shouted Minyu. A cruiser was moving to block their path. It was huge, 10 times the size of their shuttle. Its weapons were powering up. "I cannot get around it," said, "it is too big." For a moment everyone thought they would die. The cruiser was too powerful. The shuttles were too small. There was no escape. Then the horizon appeared. The damaged ship flew directly at the cruiser. Its engines were smoking. Its hull was cracked. It should not have been able to fly at all, but was at the controls and never gave up. "All weapons fire on that cruiser," ordered. The horizon unleashed everything it had left. Missiles, guns, energy beams, every weapon on the ship fired at once. The cruiser's shields flickered and failed. The horizon crashed into its side. The impact was tremendous. Metal screamed. Fire exploded. Both ships began to fall toward the planet below. Captain screamed. "Grab the emergency controls. All hands abandon ship. Get to the escape pods now." The crew ran, helped the injured, carried a wounded soldier on her back, made sure everyone got out before him. One by one, the escape pods launched from the dying ship. Was the last to leave. He took one final look at his bridge. The horizon had been his home for 5 years. He had lived here, worked here, dreamed here. Now it was gone. He climbed into the last escape pod and launched into space. Behind him, the horizon and the cruiser crashed into the ocean of. A massive explosion lit up the sky. The wave it created could be seen from space. The shuttles escaped. They flew through the gap that the horizon had created, leaving the atmosphere of behind. In the distance, they could see the fleet in chaos. Ships were colliding with each other. Commanders were shouting confused orders. No one knew what to do. The humans had created something they had never experienced before. Confusion, fear, doubt. Vox 9 watched the destruction of his cruiser. He watched the human escape pods floating in space. He watched the shuttles carrying the survivors flee toward the stars. He had failed. For the first time in thousands of years, he had failed. "Commander," said one of his officers, "should we pursue?" Vox 9 was silent for a long moment. He looked at the wreckage of the human ship. He thought about the creatures who had flown it. They had known they would die. They had come anyway. They had fought against impossible odds. They had sacrificed everything to save strangers. It made no sense. It was not logical. It was not how the universe was supposed to work. "No," he said finally, "let them go." "Commander," I said, "let them go. This battle is over." His officers stared at him in shock, but no one argued. Vox 9 was still the commander. His word was law. The fleet pulled back. They did not pursue the shuttles. They did not chase the escape pods. They simply watched as the humans and their passengers disappeared into the darkness of space. The evacuation ships flew for 3 days. They had no destination, no plan. They just flew away from the danger, away from the death, away from everything they had lost. On the 3rd day, they were found. An Earth fleet appeared from hyperspace. 20 ships, 50 ships, 100 ships. They had received the horizon's final transmission and had come as fast as they could. The lead ship was commanded by Admiral, a man with gray hair and kind eyes. He personally greeted the survivors when they came aboard. "Captain," he said, shaking the injured man's hand, "you are either the bravest person I have ever met or the craziest." Smiled weakly, "Can I not be both?" "You can be whatever you want. You just saved an entire civilization with one ship and 30 people. The galaxy is going to remember this for a long time." Queen approached the two humans. She had cleaned herself up as best she could. She had borrowed clothes from one of the human crew members. She no longer looked like a queen. She looked like a refugee, a survivor. But when she stood before Captain, she held herself with dignity. "You saved my people," she said. "You gave everything you had, your ship, your safety, almost your lives. I do not know how to thank you." Looked at her. He saw the pain in her 4 eyes, the loss, the grief, but also something else, hope, a future. "You do not need to thank me," he said. "We did what we had to do." "But why?" asked. "We are strangers. We are different species from different worlds. Why would you risk everything for us?" Thought about the question. It was a good question. He was not sure he had a good answer. "Because you asked for help," he said finally. "Because you were alone and afraid, because no one else was coming." He paused. "Because that is what we do. We help. It is who we are." Was silent for a long moment. Then she did something she had never done before. She bowed to a deep, respectful bow, a bow that queens only gave to other queens. "Then I am honored to know you," she said, "and I hope that one day my people can be as brave as yours." Helped her stand up straight. "Your people are already brave," he said. "They survived. That takes more courage than fighting ever could." The Earth fleet took the survivors to a safe world. It was small but beautiful, with green forests and clean water and a sky full of stars. The people would have to start over. They would have to build new homes and new lives. But they were alive. They had a chance. On the day they landed on their new world, Queen stood on a hill and watched her people begin to settle in. Children played in the grass. Families built shelters. Old ones planted seeds for crops that would feed future generations. Captain stood beside her. His wounds were healing. He would return to Earth soon to see his daughter, to rest, to recover. But for now, he wanted to see this moment. He wanted to see the beginning of something new. "What will you call this place?" he asked. Thought for a moment, then she smiled. "Horizon," she said. "We will call it Horizon, so that we never forget the ship that saved us, so that we never forget the humans who came when no one else would." Felt tears in his eyes. He had lost his ship. He had almost lost his crew, but looking at the people building their new lives, he knew it had been worth it. Every life they saved, every child who would grow up on this world, every future that now existed because they had refused to look away. That was the human way. That was what they did. They answered the call. They fought the impossible. They helped. And the galaxy would never be the same.